Ladies and gentlemen, there is a fundamental truth that separates the man who dreams from the man who does, the woman who wishes from the woman who wins. And that truth is this: you will never feel ready. The world has taught us to wait for the right time, the right tools, the right mood, the right message, the right mentor. And while we wait, the world moves on. It does not slow for hesitation. It does not pause for doubt. It opens its treasures only to those who have the audacity to act in the face of uncertainty. Winners, true winners, understand this. They know that waiting for readiness is a trap, a velvet-lined cage built by fear and maintained by the illusion of preparation. They know that readiness is not a condition you wait for. It is a consequence of action. The man who builds a fortune, the woman who lifts an empire, the individual who shapes history, they all stepped forward when the ground beneath them was shaky and the skies above were unclear. They acted not because they had all the answers, but because they were determined to find them. You see, clarity does not precede action. Action births clarity. You do not become confident by sitting still. You do not develop courage by planning endlessly. These things are forged in motion, in doing, in moving, in facing the fire even if your knees tremble and your voice shakes. The person who wins does not wait for fear to disappear. They walk with fear. They speak with doubt sitting on their shoulder. But they do not stop. They take the step. They write the book. They start the business. They speak their truth. And in that movement, they change. This world does not hand over its rewards to the hesitant. It gives them to the bold, not to the foolhardy, no, but to the bold-hearted. The one who says, I may not know the whole way, but I trust myself to take the first step. That is who becomes unstoppable. How many dreams have died in the graveyard of almost ready? How many ideas have vanished because their creators waited for the stars to align, for the perfect wind to fill their sails? Meanwhile, someone else with less talent, less knowledge, but more fire in their gut took action and won. It is not the most gifted who rise. It is not the most prepared. It is the most committed, the most relentless, the most willing to take a step before they feel they deserve to move at all. Fear will try to freeze you. It will whisper in your ear that you're not qualified, that you're too young, too old, too late, too early. And if you listen long enough, it will bury your potential in silence. But if you stand up, even slightly unsure, and say, I will act anyway, you send a signal not just to the world, but to yourself. You declare that your destiny is not dependent on your comfort. You decide that courage matters more than certainty. There will always be someone who tells you to wait. Wait for approval. Wait for perfection. Wait until you're better. But winners don't wait. They create. They commit. They leap and build wings on the way down. You do not need to be ready. You need to be willing. Willing to make mistakes. Willing to learn fast. Willing to be laughed at, misunderstood, doubted, and still rise. Because readiness is not a destination. It is a myth. A story told by the timid to justify staying still. But the great ones, the ones we read about, watch, admire. They chose to move before they were sure. So today, I say this to you with fire in my voice and certainty in my soul. If you are waiting to feel ready before you begin, you will never begin. If you are waiting to feel perfect before you act, you will be waiting forever. There is only one question that matters now. Are you willing? Willing to step into the unknown? Willing to do it afraid? Willing to try and fail and try again? Because if you are willing, nothing can stop you. Not fear, not failure, not the voices that say you can't. The world is not asking you to be perfect. It is asking you to be courageous. And courage is nothing more than the decision to move before you feel ready. The winners of this world, the ones who build legacies, are not waiting. They are acting. Now ask yourself, not someday, but now, will you? One of the greatest illusions that holds people back from taking control of their destiny is the belief that they must first have clarity before they can act. They believe they need to know the entire plan, see the whole path, understand every step before they begin. This idea, though comforting, is false. The truth, the often uncomfortable truth, is that clarity does not come before action. Clarity comes through action. It is born in motion, not in stillness. You can sit in your room and imagine every possible outcome, map every scenario, calculate every risk, and still be no closer to certainty. Why? Because life does not reveal itself to the thinker. It reveals itself to the door. You don't gain clarity by staring at the mountain. You gain clarity by climbing it. Step by step, breath by breath, choice by choice, the fog starts to lift. Not all at once, but just enough to see the next few feet. And that's enough. When you move forward, even imperfectly, you begin to receive feedback from the world. You begin to see what works and what doesn't. You discover strengths you didn't know you had and weaknesses you didn't realize needed improvement. Each step gives you insight that standing still could never offer. You start building confidence, not because you're certain, but because you've proven to yourself that you can take the next step, and then the next, regardless of fear. This is why the winners in life are those who act while others wait. They do not wait for the full picture. They understand that progress is built like a puzzle, one piece at a time. They take the piece in front of them, place it where it seems to fit, and trust that the rest will become clearer with time. Action becomes their compass, their teacher, their guide. Nowhere in the journey of success will you find a guarantee that says, you will only be rewarded once everything is perfect. In fact, the opposite is true. Those who act with incomplete information, who move forward without all the answers, who trust themselves enough to begin, they are the ones who discover what others cannot, because they are willing to engage with the world, rather than sit on the sidelines of their own life. Waiting for clarity before acting is like waiting for a ship that has already sailed. The moment passes. The opportunity fades, the energy drains, and all that's left is regret. Regret that you didn't begin when you had the chance. But when you act first, you create momentum, and momentum is a force that makes things possible. It opens doors. It creates unexpected opportunities. It turns confusion into direction and hesitation into resolve. So if you are standing at the edge of a dream, wondering whether to take the leap, wondering if you're ready enough or sure enough to start, know this: you will never find absolute clarity from where you are. It lies ahead, waiting to meet you in the place where action begins. Take that first step and the next will appear. Move and the path will unfold. Not before. Never before. Clarity is not a prerequisite. It is a reward. There's a silent killer of dreams that often wears a noble disguise. It doesn't shout. It doesn't scream. It whispers gently, "Not yet." Make it better. Make it perfect. And in that moment, action is delayed, progress is halted, and potential is left untouched. This killer is the obsession with perfection, and it is the enemy of all progress. Perfection sounds admirable. It dresses itself in high standards and noble intent. But underneath, it is fear in disguise, fear of judgment, fear of failure, fear of not being enough. And so, perfection tells you to wait, to revise just one more time, to delay just a little longer, to not release, not publish, not launch, because it's not flawless yet. But nothing in this world that ever achieved greatness started perfect. The masterpiece began as a rough sketch. The million-dollar business started with an idea scribbled on paper. The speaker who commands a stage once stumbled through their first words. Every expert was once an amateur, every leader once uncertain. What separated them from the rest wasn't that they waited until everything was perfect. It was that they moved anyway. Progress is built on momentum, not flawlessness. It is better to move forward with a rough version than to stand still with a perfect plan that never leaves your mind. Because while perfection paralyzes, progress compounds. One small step leads to the next. One finished project, no matter how flawed, becomes the foundation for something better. You improve by doing, not by hesitating. Every time you aim for perfection before progress, you rob yourself of growth. You rob yourself of feedback. You deny yourself the chance to learn in the real world. Because real learning doesn't happen in your mind. It happens in motion. You don't grow by endlessly editing. You grow by releasing, receiving, reflecting, and refining. The person who publishes the imperfect video learns more in a week than the person who's been editing the perfect one for 6 months. The entrepreneur who launches an average product gathers more insight than the one obsessing over every detail, waiting for a flawless version that may never arrive. The artist who shares their work, flaws and all, begins to connect with people, while the one chasing perfect shadow stays invisible. Perfection is seductive. It will tell you that you're being wise, cautious, responsible. But what it's really doing is keeping you safe from risk, safe from embarrassment, from rejection, from growth. Because growth requires vulnerability. It requires putting your work, your voice, your heart into the world before it feels ready. Understand this don't is better than perfect. Real beats ideal. Movement outweighs stillness. Because each time you complete something, even imperfectly, you build trust in yourself. You prove that you are someone who follows through, someone who acts, someone who creates. And that trust becomes power, the power to keep going, to improve rapidly, to build a legacy not from imagined perfection but from lived experience. So don't fall for the perfection trap. Don't wait for the ideal conditions, the perfect words, or the flawless product. Just begin. Start messy. Show up scared. Release it anyway, because it's not about being perfect. It's about being brave enough to progress. And in the end, those who progress win. Confidence is often misunderstood. Most people believe that confidence is something you must have before you begin. That it's a feeling you're supposed to wake up with, some magical inner strength that convinces you you're good enough, ready enough, talented enough to take action. But the truth is the opposite. Confidence does not come before commitment. Confidence follows commitment. It is only when you commit, fully, deeply, without retreat, that confidence begins to rise. Not because you suddenly become fearless or perfect, but because your decision to act sends a signal to your mind and body that says, I am serious about this. I am showing up whether I feel ready or not. That signal creates momentum, and momentum builds belief. You begin to see results, however small. You begin to learn, adapt, and grow. And with every moment you stay committed, your confidence grows stronger. Not in theory, but in reality. You cannot think your way into confidence. You cannot wish for it or meditate it into existence without movement. Confidence is earned in the doing, not in the dreaming. The person who stands in front of a crowd with certainty didn't get there by waiting to feel brave. They got there by committing to show up again and again, even when their hands shook and their voice trembled. And each time they did, their fear faded a little more, their skill sharpened, their sense of self expanded. Most people are trapped in a loop. They wait to feel confident before they commit. But they never feel confident because they never commit. They keep preparing, planning, hoping. But without action, confidence has no soil to grow in. It's like trying to harvest a crop you never planted. Commitment is the planting. The consistent doing is the watering. Confidence is the harvest. Commitment means showing up when it's uncomfortable, when the results aren't there yet, when the progress is slow and the path is unclear. It means pushing forward even when doubt is whispering in your ear. And it's in that discomfort, in that resistance, where your strength is built. Like muscles in a gym, confidence is torn and rebuilt through effort. Each day you stay committed. Your inner voice changes from, I hope I can, to I know I will. Even when you fail, especially when you fail, confidence is being formed, because failure is proof that you tried. It's a sign that you were in motion, that you had the courage to test your limits. Confidence isn't about never falling. It's about becoming the kind of person who keeps rising, who learns, who adjusts, who grows stronger, wiser, and bolder with each setback. The people who walk with unshakable belief in themselves weren't born that way. They were built. They were carved out of challenge, shaped by consistency, molded by commitment. And what they have is available to anyone willing to make the same choice, to begin before they feel ready, and to stay the course long enough to become the person they admire. So if you're waiting to feel confident before you take the next step, you're looking in the wrong direction. Make the commitment first. Decide to show up. Decide to follow through. Decide that your growth matters more than your comfort. And then, through that commitment, let your confidence catch up to you. Because it will. Every time you choose action over hesitation, discipline over excuses, courage over doubt, you become more than you were yesterday. And slowly, without even noticing, you'll wake up one day and realize you're not pretending anymore. You are confident because you earned it. Fear is one of the most misunderstood emotions in the human experience. Most people see fear as a red light, a stop sign, a message that says, turn around, go back, this isn't for you. But in reality, fear is not a stop sign. Fear is a signal. It's a signal that something meaningful is on the other side of the choice you're about to make. It's a sign that you're about to do something that matters, something that will stretch you, something that might lead to transformation. Think about it. The moments in life that mattered most. The first time you spoke up, the first time you stepped outside your comfort zone, the first time you chased something that felt too big, they were all wrapped in fear. But you moved anyway. And that movement changed you. Not because the fear disappeared, but because you didn't let it decide your future. Fear shows up when you care. It shows up when something is uncertain, when the stakes are high, when failure is possible. But none of that makes fear the enemy. In fact, fear is a powerful tool. It's like a compass. When you feel it, instead of running, pause and ask yourself, why is this here? What am I being called to do? What would happen if I moved forward anyway? Those who succeed in life don't eliminate fear. They don't avoid it. They develop a new relationship with it. They see it not as a wall, but as a doorway, a signal that says, this is the direction of growth. They feel the fear and move forward with it, not after it's gone, because they understand that courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is movement in the presence of it. Some people spend years trying to get rid of fear before they act. They look for motivation videos, therapy sessions, journal entries, long talks with friends, all in search of a way to feel less afraid. And while those things can help you understand fear, none of them will make it vanish entirely. Fear doesn't leave through thinking. It leaves through doing. It loses its grip when you prove to yourself that you can act even when it's present. Fear isn't a dead end. It's not a reason to quit. It's a clue, a marker that says you're stepping onto a path that could change your life. But most people misread that clue. They turn back, they shrink, they choose comfort instead of calling, and in doing so, they trade their potential for safety. But those who rise, those who achieve, build, create, read the signal differently. When fear says, this is too big, they respond, then I must grow into it. When fear says, you're not ready, they say, I'll become ready through action. They don't wait for the fear to go away. They welcome it, because they know it only visits when something important is at stake. Imagine if you stopped seeing fear as a threat and started seeing it as guidance. Imagine if every time your heart raced, your hands shook, or your stomach tightened, you took that as a cue to lean in instead of step back. How much further could you go? How many chances would you stop missing? How many doors would open? The truth is, fear will always be a part of the journey, but it doesn't get to drive. It doesn't get to decide what you do with your one and only life. You do. And the moment you stop treating fear like a stop sign, you start unlocking your true potential. Fear is loud, yes, but you can be louder. Fear is real, yes, but so is your strength. Use fear not as a wall, but as fuel. Let it remind you that you're alive, that you're growing, that you're not standing still. Let it signal that you're on the edge of becoming something greater. And when it appears, don't run, don't pause, don't turn around. Step forward. That's where the transformation begins. Opportunities in life are not handed out evenly. They don't always go to the smartest person, the most experienced, or even the most talented. More often than not, they go to the bold, to those who are willing to act, to step into uncertainty, to claim a chance before it's fully formed. Because opportunity doesn't wait for hesitation. It aligns itself with movement. It rewards the ones who show up, speak up, and reach out even when they're unsure of the outcome. Being bold doesn't mean being reckless. It means being willing to take initiative before everything is clear. It means trusting your gut, even when your mind fills with doubt. It means doing the thing that others are too afraid to try. The world responds to boldness in a way it does not respond to caution. It notices action. It opens doors for those who knock with force and intention, not those who stand quietly, hoping to be invited in. Most people spend their lives waiting for permission, waiting for certainty, waiting for the so-called right time. But the right time is rarely obvious, and opportunity doesn't shout its arrival. It often comes disguised as a challenge, a risk, a fleeting moment that can be seized or lost forever. Bold people recognize this. They understand that action must come before assurance. They don't wait to feel ready. They make a decision and allow courage to carry them forward. There is a kind of magic that happens when you act boldly, not because everything suddenly becomes easy, but because boldness creates momentum. It disrupts comfort. It pulls you out of the crowd and into the spotlight. And once you are seen, once you show the world that you're willing to leap, things begin to shift. People take notice. Resources appear. Connections are made. That is the hidden power of boldness. It activates everything around you. But it starts with a choice. The choice to raise your hand, to start the conversation, to take the risks, to ask for the opportunity instead of waiting for it to be offered. You don't need a perfect plan. You need a committed spirit. You need a mind that says, I might not have all the answers, but I refuse to stay still. The greatest moments in history, the most significant breakthroughs, the most impactful changes, almost all were sparked by someone who dared to be bold. Someone who said yes when others said no. Someone who tried when others hesitated. Someone who believed that even if the outcome was uncertain, the act of trying was worth it. In a world full of noise, hesitation gets drowned out, but boldness cuts through. It leaves an impression. It sets things in motion that cannot happen through passive dreaming. If you want to live a life that's more than average, if you want to do more than just exist, you must be willing to take risks others won't. You must be willing to make moves others fear. That's how doors open. That's how paths are forged. That's how change begins. So don't wait for the perfect sign. Don't hope that opportunity will find you sitting quietly on the sidelines. Step up, speak out, move forward. Be bold enough to act, even when your hands are shaking. Be bold enough to believe that you're worthy of the opportunity, and bold enough to prove it. Because life doesn't hand greatness to those who are merely prepared. It hands it to those who are willing to go first. And if you're bold enough to do that, you'll discover that the doors you once thought were closed were simply waiting for you to knock, loudly. Progress is never born in ease. It is not forged in moments of comfort or carved from routines that never change. True progress, deep, lasting transformation, requires discomfort. It demands that you step into spaces where you're uncertain, uneasy, and sometimes even afraid. Because growth never happens by staying the same. It comes through challenge, through pressure, through the very friction that most people spend their lives trying to avoid. The path to becoming more than you are begins where your comfort ends. Discomfort is not a punishment. It is a signal that you're pushing your limits, that you're stretching your identity, that you're reaching for something beyond your current capacity. Every time you feel uncomfortable, you are standing on the edge of expansion. And while that edge may feel unfamiliar, even painful, it is exactly where progress lies. Most people retreat when they feel discomfort. They believe it's a warning sign that they're doing something wrong. But the truth is, discomfort is often a sign that you're doing something right. You're disrupting old patterns. You're breaking cycles. You're confronting your own limitations. That's not failure, it's growth in motion. Think of anyone who has achieved mastery in anything. Athletes, artists, entrepreneurs, leaders. None of them got where they are by choosing the easy route. They endured pain, faced setbacks, dealt with rejection, and kept going. They chose to lean into discomfort rather than escape from it, because they understood that on the other side of struggle is strength, on the other side of fear is freedom, and on the other side of discomfort is the version of yourself you've never met, stronger, wiser, and more capable than you imagined. You don't need to eliminate discomfort, you need to embrace it. It's not a sign to stop. It's a sign to keep going. Discomfort builds resilience. It sharpens focus. It develops character. And most importantly, it gives you proof that you can endure, that you can adapt, that you can overcome. And once you have that proof, you walk differently. You speak differently. You carry yourself with the quiet confidence of someone who has faced the fire and refused to back down. Waiting for things to be easy is a trap. Easy may feel good in the short term, but it robs you of your edge. It softens your ambition. It steals the very fuel that drives real achievement. If you want to rise, you must be willing to struggle. If you want to lead, you must be willing to fall and rise again. If you want to evolve, you must be willing to be uncomfortable again and again. Because every version of your future self is hiding on the other side of what you're avoiding now. So welcome the discomfort. Let it challenge you. Let it shape you. Let it be your reminder that you're alive and moving forward. Because the moment you stop chasing comfort and start choosing challenge, your life begins to change. And the longer you stay in the game, the more you realize discomfort doesn't break you. It builds you. Always has, always will. In the journey toward greatness, the road will never be paved with certainty, comfort, or perfection. It will test your courage, challenge your patience, and demand your boldest self. But remember this, winners act before they feel ready. They move not because the path is easy, but because the goal is worth the struggle. They understand that clarity is born from action, not endless thought. That perfection is a myth that robs the world of real progress. That confidence is not a requirement, but a reward for commitment. That fear is not a wall, but a signpost that says, you're on the edge of growth. Opportunities don't knock on quiet doors. They seek those bold enough to step forward and claim them. And progress? It only arrives when you're willing to embrace the discomfort that shapes your character and sharpens your spirit. So, don't wait for the perfect moment. Don't wait for the fear to fade. Don't wait to feel completely ready. Take the leap. Trust the process. Keep showing up even when it's hard, even when it's messy, even when no one is watching. Because every small, uncomfortable step forward is proof that you're becoming the person you were meant to be. Act now. Stay the course. And one day, you'll look back and realize you didn't wait for greatness. You built it one bold move at a time.